Good morning, guys. Today we are gonna read the book When Called the Heart by Janette. Okay, chapter 9 The Wilderness. The previous 8 chapters we have read in the previous videos, and if you haven't watched it yet, just go and check those and just subscribe the channel. Don't forget to like and share it to your friends. Let's start. Chapter 9 The Wilderness. I spent the remainder of the daylight in further exploration of my new domain. Besides the school, the door of which was firmly nailed shut, and the house, there was also a shed for the wood supply, a small barn, and two outhouses marked boys and girls. A pump stood in the yard, and I realized that this was my water supply. Not being able to resist that handle, I tried it. It was a long time before the water made an appearance. When it finally did come and I pushed my hand under the stream of water, it was so cold that I shivered. I sat down on a small platform to catch my breath, touching my still cold hand to my hot cheeks and forehead. The yard that I surveyed certainly needed care, but then, of course, it had been unattended. The tall grass had certainly been cut, but had been left to lie, browning where it fell. It smelled musty, and insects buzzed busily about it. I peeked in one of the windows of the small school building and glimpsed some desks in various sizes and condition, a large pot-bellied stove near the door, and a teacher's desk in front of a homemade blackboard. I did not go back to the teacherage until the sun had retired for the night. The sunset was a splendid display. I wondered if it was showing off for my benefit or if it was often that spectacular. Rarely had I seen such a gorgeous scene. The riotous colors flamed out over the sky in shades that I had no words to describe. Birds sang their last songs of the day before tucking it for the night, and still the darkness hung back. Now I thought, I understand the word twilight. It was created for just this time in this land. The air began to cool, and the darkness did start its descent at last. I slowly began picking my way toward my small haven, wanting to sing aloud the song that reverberated in my heart, yet holding myself in check. This new world was so peaceful, so harmonious. I was lingering by a window of the school building, taking one last fruitless peek into the dark interior when a blood-curdling, spine-chilling howl rent the stillness of the evening hour. It seemed to tear through my veins, leaving me terrified and shaking. The scream had hardly died away when another followed, to be joined by another. I came to life then, a wolf pack, and right in my very yard. They had smelled new blood and were moving in for the kill. I sprang forward and ran for the door of my cabin, praying that somehow God would hold them back until I was able to gain entrance. My feet tangled in the new mown grass, and I fell to my hands and knees. With a cry, I scurried madly on, not even bothering to regain my feet. The sharp stubble of the grass and weeds bit into the palms of my hands, but I crawled on. Another howl pierced the night. "Oh, dear God," I cried, and tears ran down my cheeks. How it seemed to be all around me now. Starting as a solo, they would end up in a whole chorus. What were they saying to one another? I was certain that they were discussing my coming end. Somehow I raised the door and scrambled inside. I struggled to my feet and stood with my back braced against the flimsy wooden barrier. I expected an attack to come at any moment. I heard no sound of rushing padded feet, only sporadic howling. But Julie had said that Western wolves were like that, cat-like and noiseless, silently stealing upon their victims. My eyes lifted to the windows. The windows. Would they challenge the glass? I forced myself to leave the door, checking first for some kind of lock. There was one, of sorts, but it was only a hook and eye, totally inadequate against a half-ton wolf. Julie had said that they were huge animals with eyes that glared and angry red jaws that were set in a grin of malice, and hackles that bulged the fur around their neck. making them look much like sinister men in heavy broad-collared beaver coats. With trembling fingers, I fastened the hook on the door and rushed into the kitchen. What would deter them? Perhaps if I hung quiet kilts over the windows, the smell of my warm blood would not reach them so readily. What had Julie said? Fire. That was it. Fire. Fire was about the only thing that would hold them back. I rushed to the stove. It was cold and flameless. I must get a fire started. I must. I sobbed and began to throw pepper and kindling into the firebox. I knew that these supplies had been left for my use the next morning, but I needed them now. My fingers fumbled with the match as a new burst of holes split the air. They didn't sound any closer, but perhaps that was a strategy, just to throw their victims off guard. Maybe some of them were sitting back and howling while others toiling quietly to make the kill. The pepper finally began to flame, and I thrust the kindling carelessly on top of it. The hungry, newborn flames consumed it greedily. I placed the lid on the stove. To my dismay, there was no evidence of fire except for the small amount of warmth that was beginning to radiate from the black metal of the stove top. I can't cover it, I can't, or it will be no production at all, I told myself. I removed the lid again. The flames were robust now, and I fed them more wood. Smoke began to seep into the room, and as I huddled over the stove as close to the flames as I dared, I began to cough. I pulled the handkerchief from my skirt pocket and covered my mouth. It was then I realized that my dress was ripped and hanging limply about my waist, and nearly severed the skirt from the bodice. It must have happened during the frantic crawling. I continued to feed the fire and huddle over it, coughing and crying into the wood smoke. Suddenly I realized that it had been several minutes since I heard a wolf howl. Was it a trick? Had they moved on, or were they just coaxing me away from the flames? I now wish that I had studied more about the habits of wilderness creatures like Julie had insisted. It am foolish of me to venture into the wilds unprepared. Why, I didn't even have a gun or know how to use one. My pounding heart sounded loud in the new stillness. I heard an owl hoot a few times and it too seemed to move on. Still I remained by the fire, not even daring to move to the window to look outside. A harvest moon soon hung in the sky. I could tell by the brightness that it was full and orange like an autumn pumpkin. I stayed where I was and between fits and of coughing stared at the shadows surrounding the trees at the far side of the yard. I could see plainly through the window as the moon rose higher and higher in the sky. But though I watched until my eyes ached with the strain, I saw nothing move, and then to my amazement 2 deer moved fearlessly out of the shadows and into the open yard. They began to feed unconcerned upon the scattered mown grass. This was my first encouragement. Surely the deer wouldn't walk out boldly if the wolf pack was still around. But could the wolves so conceal themselves that even the deer couldn't detect them? Downwind wasn't that it. The killer stalked his prey from downwind. Was there a wind blowing? Again I strained my eyes and my ears, but not a leaf shivered. I could not even hear a flutter in the stillness of the night. I continued to feed my fire. The smoke in the room was almost unbearable now. I could not afford to leave the lid of the stove a minute longer, or I would surely suffocate. Even with my handkerchief and the hem of my dress over my nose and mouth, I could scarcely stand to breathe the air of the room. My eyes watered until my handkerchief were soaked. What could I do? To close the lid meant that my fire could not be seen, but to open the lid meant that I would soon be driven from the cabin. Perhaps that was what the wolves were waiting for. Maybe they knew that I could not endure the smoke-filled room much longer. Maybe they were gathered around my door at this very instant, waiting for me to stagger from the house and into their waiting jaws. I replenished the fire and closed the lid. The minutes tickled slowly by. It was a long time until I was brave enough to step away from the stove. I was still struggling with some way to ensure survival. The lamp, I thought suddenly, the lamp might do as a fire substitute. I fumbled in the darkened room until I found the lamp and the matches. When the small flame flickered up, I beheld the room blue with smoke. No wonder I was having trouble breathing. I looked around the room in dismay. There was nothing available for my defense. I was very late. No one at this hour would be going by on the road that ran by my door. I guess that according to where the moon now hung, the night was half over. I ached with tiredness and fear, and my hands and knees stung from the scratches and bruises. What could I do? It suddenly dawned on me that there was nothing that I could do, and that it was foolish to pretend to defend myself. I placed more wood in the stove, set my lighted lamp on the table by the window, and went to my bedroom. Somewhere in my few belongings I had a nightgown, but I didn't bother searching for it. I closed the curtain and slipped my torn and soiled dress over my head. I left it lying where it fell and dropped on top of it on one of my petticoats, still wearing the other. I moved to the bed and spread the quilt over it. I had never slept without sheets before, and under different circumstances it might have bothered me to do so. It did not bother me now. I was about to lower myself onto the bed when I remembered the clean floor sacking over the mattress. I stopped only long enough to gather up the skirt of my crumpled dress and carefully wipe my hands and feet on it. Then I lay down and pulled the quilt right over my head. Lord, I pray I've done all that I knew to do. You'll have to take over now. The stuffiness under the quilt was no better than the smoke of the room. I was soon forced to uncover my nose and get some air. Somehow I managed to cough myself to sleep. Chapter 10 is last, which I'll be reading on the following video. And if you like the video, just hit the like button and share it with your friends, and you can watch these videos and or play this audio in cars while you're traveling, because it's good. Yeah, if you don't have time for reading and all, you can just hear it while you're walking. It will be useful. However, thanks for watching.